There is a moment that doesn't arrive with certainty. It doesn't feel like clarity. It doesn't feel like relief. It doesn't feel like a conclusion. It feels like the absence of pressure. This episode is about what it's like when there's nothing left to resolve. Not because everything has been fixed, but because nothing is waiting anymore. For much of life, there is a sense that something remains unfinished. Something needs to be addressed, understood, healed, or completed. Even when things are going well, there's often a quiet background feeling that this isn't it yet. Something is still pending. That sense of pending doesn't always have content. It may not be attached to a specific problem. It can exist as a general orientation toward the future, a sense that life will really settle once something else happens. Once I understand this, once I get past that, once things make sense. But there may come a point when that orientation softens. Not because answers arrive, not because circumstances change, but because the need for resolution quietly dissolves. At first, this can feel strange. Without something to resolve, the mind doesn't know where to go. It may look for unfinished business, unresolved emotions, lingering questions. It may scan your life for what's missing, but nothing stands out. This doesn't mean everything feels good. It means nothing is demanding completion. You may still feel sadness. You may still feel uncertainty. You may still feel discomfort, but none of it feels like a problem waiting to be solved. There's a difference between discomfort and unresolvedness. Discomfort is part of living. Unresolvedness is a belief about living. When that belief loosens, life feels less tense, even if nothing has changed. You may notice this most clearly in how you relate to the past. Memories still arise. Thoughts still return, but they don't feel like loose ends. They don't carry the urgency of needing to be processed or integrated. They appear. They pass. Nothing follows them. You're not trying to finish the story. There can be relief here, but it's subtle. Not relief that comes from accomplishment, but relief that comes from stopping the search. You're no longer looking for the moment when everything lines up. You're no longer asking when you'll be done with what you've lived through. You're not waiting for closure. This can feel unsettling at first because closure has been presented as necessary. We're taught that unresolved things linger, that they weigh us down, that they must be addressed. But what if some things don't need resolution? What if they don't need to be tied off? What if they're simply part of what's here? Nothing left to resolve doesn't mean nothing matters. It means nothing is incomplete. Life isn't something you finish. Experience isn't something you finalize. There can be a softening in the body here. A loosening that isn't dramatic. You may notice that you're no longer bracing internally. You're not holding yourself in readiness for something else to happen. You're not preparing for the next insight. You're not waiting for a shift. You're here. This doesn't mean life becomes static. Things still move. Situations change. Emotions rise and fall. Decisions are made. But they're no longer framed as steps toward completion. You're not trying to get somewhere else. This episode isn't about acceptance as a practice. It's about noticing that resistance has already fallen away in a quiet, unremarkable way. You're not fighting what is. You're not approving of it either. You're simply not requiring it to resolve. There may still be moments when the mind returns to old habits. It may ask whether you should feel differently by now, whether something should be clearer, whether you're missing an insight. Those questions don't need answers. They pass the same way everything else does. Nothing is being held open. This can change how you relate to daily life. You're less inclined to interpret events as signs, less inclined to ask what something is teaching you, less inclined to frame experience as part of a journey. You don't need lessons. You don't need meaning. You don't need to arrive. Life is not withholding anything from you. This can feel deeply ordinary, almost anticlimactic. And that's exactly what makes it honest. Resolution is often imagined as a peak, a moment where things finally make sense. But in lived experience, resolution often looks like this. The question disappears. Not because it was answered, but because it no longer applies. Nothing left to resolve doesn't mean you've reached the end of something. It means the idea that you were in the middle of something has dissolved. You're not mid-process. You're not incomplete. You're not on hold. You're living. This episode isn't suggesting you stop reflecting entirely. Reflection may still happen, but it's no longer compulsory. You don't need to check whether something has been integrated. You trust that what needed to settle has settled in its own way. There's a quiet trust here, not trust in outcomes, but trust in life's capacity to move without being resolved. You may notice that you're more willing to let things remain ambiguous. You don't rush to clarify. You don't need certainty before you proceed. You let things be unclear, and nothing falls apart. This can also affect how you relate to others. You may find yourself less invested in finishing conversations, resolving misunderstandings, or reaching agreement. You respond when needed. You speak when it's natural, but you don't carry interactions forward as unfinished business. They complete themselves. This doesn't make you disengaged. It makes you lighter. You're not holding life open with expectation. This season has moved through ordinary days, quiet care, being with others, and acting without a center. It now rests here, not at an endpoint, but in the absence of needing one. Nothing left to resolve doesn't close the season. It opens the space where seasons don't need to be marked. Life continues without needing to be wrapped up. If you're listening to this and noticing that you're no longer waiting for something to settle, even though things aren't perfect, you're not avoiding resolution. You're recognizing that none is required. If these reflections feel like something you can return to, you're welcome to stay. Liking the video helps it reach others who may still feel pressure to resolve their lives. And if you want to keep a steady space like this available, you can subscribe, not for answers, but for companionship. If someone you care about seems less concerned with closure lately, less focused on finishing their story, you're welcome to share this with them, only if it feels right. Nothing is waiting. Nothing is unfinished. Life doesn't need to resolve in order to continue.